Hi
Hello
everyone.
everyone.
Hello.
Oh, this is so
Welcome.
exciting.
Yes,
Welcome
literally.
everyone. I
Welcome to the
love it.
first real episode.
Yes.
First full length episode of Rewrite the Rules. We are super excited for you all to be here. We just want to say a massive thank you for everyone's support and kind messages regarding us launching the pod. We have been so excited about this for so long, haven't we?
Yes.
So
100%.
it's just so exciting to see everyone else loving it as much as we love it. I am feeling nervous, but really happy, really excited to see your girls' faces. So how are you guys feeling?
Honestly,
nervous.
yeah.
I've got like the sweats.
Oh yeah.
Just the mixture, the combination of nervous and excited, but I think more excited because obviously we've been wanting to do this for such a long time. So the fact that we're doing it is just, amazing.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
So just to kind of give you guys a little heads up on what this episode is going to be about. So we're just going to be sharing with you guys more about us, like who are we, why are we together, and why we're just so passionate about this and what Rewrite the Rules means to us. But just a disclaimer, we are going to be referencing stuff to do with disordered eating disorders, diet culture, mental health. So if any of that stuff you think will trigger you in a negative way, feel free to skip this one. But we hopefully are going to be providing value as well. So yeah, we just really hope you love it.
Definitely. And, essentially we're just, we're all friends. We met whilst working together. We just started having these really amazing and empowering conversations, breaking free from diet culture and trying to really find, body image freedom. And I think that we started having conversations and it was like 3 hours and we message each other all day, every day. And I think to find you girls and find that we have the same values is just, I think for a long time I was having conversations with people and they were very conflicting and I was kind of like, no one really feels these things, even though I know a lot of people do. But in terms of social circle, when I started talking to you girls, I was like, oh my god, you feel the same way as I do, or you have the same ideas about body and food freedom. So just cannot wait to start talking about all of this. We just decided to make a podcast. I know that I've wanted to for ages, and Harriet, I know that you wanted to too, and Beth, I can't wait just to get all of this started. So,
and I think we thought that we were literally voice noting each other what could be described as mini podcasts. So we thought we may as well record it, so not just to benefit the three of us, but to benefit everyone else anyway.
It's so true.
Yes.
Beth, I remember when you voice noted me once and you were like, Harriet, I've just sent you a podcast. And I was like, I'm loving it.
10 minutes long. But I listen to your girls' voice notes as if they are podcasts anyway. I'll put Harriet's on and I'll start cleaning the house.
That's
or something,
literally what
just
I
listening
do.
along. That is literally us. So this is going to come quite naturally to us, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So are we going to do a little round robin of sort of sharing each other's mini stories and backgrounds?
Yeah, let's do it.
Harriet, do you want to go first?
Sure. Okay, breathe.
No pressure.
No pressure. So obviously I'm Harriet and I'm currently practicing as a cognitive behavioral hypnotherapist, and I work one-on-one with clients, helping them achieve true food and body image freedom. Something that I'm really passionate about when it comes to my work is helping people connect back to themselves. And values is such a big part of my work as well, because I'll probably explain a bit more of this later, but I really feel like when you're stuck in diet culture and when you're struggling with your relationship with food and your body, you start to really disconnect from yourself. You start to really disconnect from your values. And that's a big piece of what I've noticed through my personal experience and also through my professional experience. So my work is all about helping people understand what their values are, what is important to them, and just helping them make more value-orientated behaviors and decisions and have more value-orientated thoughts and all of that stuff. But just to kind of like wind it back to the beginning, I came about this world of wanting to help people because I was struggling with my own mental health from quite a young age. And it's interesting talking about it because at that time, I'm sure you're both the same, and I'm sure people listening are the same. I didn't know that I was struggling with my mental health because it wasn't talked about. And
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's like, I think I must have been an adult when I first learned the word anxiety.
It's when it's happening, you're kind of like, you're so unaware of what it is that you're just kind of just skipping through it and just thinking, oh, well, you know, this is going to go at some point.
Or it almost becomes the norm, I think.
No, it's just like, this is just something I'm feeling and I don't know what it is. And I think that's also what made it very isolating as well. Part of my experience with my mental health was definitely struggling with food and my body image. It's interesting because when I think about like my childhood and like my family's values on food and all of that, it was actually really healthy. I really feel like my like parents' relationship with food was like the epitome of balance. We would eat healthily, we would eat unhealthily, we would go eat at restaurants, we would eat at fast food places, we would eat at the dining table, we would eat in front of the TV. Like I never experienced like my parents telling me that you shouldn't eat this, you should eat that. So I was really, really fortunate in that sense. But also, like you both, and I'm sure a lot of people listening, I grew up in like the 90s, early 2000s, where, you know, I can't speak for time before then, but I know that time was rife for diet culture and unrealistic beauty standards and body standards. Yes. I definitely had the belief, there's something wrong with my body, I need to change it. You know, I used to buy those like magazines, like I can't remember the name of them, like Shout Mag, Glamour. I remember it was Glamour.
Glamour, yeah.
Did you read Glamour?
I had a stack of those.
Now,
Same. A stack.
Yeah. Literally, I used to, my whole bookcase was just like full of them, and I would read through them and just like circle like the diet that I wanted to like attempt that week. And it was just, you've just unlocked another memory that I've got.
Yeah. And it's when you could get a subscription as well. Do you remember you could pay and get a subscription, so it used to get delivered to your door?
Yes.
God,
you know, and also anymore. It wasn't even isolated to like Glamour magazine. Like, it was like all magazines at that time. Like I also used to like buy the really cheap magazines. Obviously, I know Glamour was like a bit more expensive, but like the cheaper magazines that had like, they used to circle celebrities, like if they gained weight, and like circle like
Heat and Closer.
Yeah, and just awful stuff even looking back. But you know, all of this stuff put together as like, you know, a 15-year-old, I was like, there's something wrong with me, like there's something wrong with my body, I need to change it. And through my experience with like disordered eating, I definitely like learned how to have a bad relationship with food and my body, because, and I say the word learned very specifically because I joined this community via Tumblr.
Yeah, I remember you used to talking about this, but this is new to me, so like you're going to be educating me.
Yeah, well, I think we should do a whole episode on Tumblr because it's
intense,
but
also very dark.
Yeah.
And I think at some point, like, you just felt like you were the only one. I was definitely the only one out of my friends that I knew was on Tumblr, so I just felt I was experiencing this completely by myself.
It's very weird, very dark. As a 15-year-old at that time, I didn't see it as like dark and weird. I saw it as like this world full of like beautiful aesthetics and beautiful girls, and like that I wanted to be like and like look like. And essentially it's not like this anymore because there's regulation, thank goodness. But back then there was, my understanding, it wasn't regulated at all, and there was like pro eating disorder groups, and it was a big pro eating disorder community. And so when I say that I learned how to like F up my relationship with food and my body, like I mean that quite specifically, because they literally used to give out like instruction manuals on like how to have an eating disorder, how to, like, honestly, I'm not even joking, because it
and how
like,
to hide your eating disorders as well, like how you can hide it within your family and stuff as well.
Yeah, it's awful. And
it was as specific as that.
Yeah. yeah, you know, like they all knew, like all like the main contributors. I don't want to blame the main contributors because they were obviously unwell, right? But
Yeah.
it was very obvious that this wasn't good, but the promise of being thin by the end of it overshadowed that. So it's like, yeah, this is miserable. Yeah, you're going to suffer, but you'll be thin. And that was, you know, how I used to think, like, oh, I don't care if I mess up at school, at least I'll be thin. I don't care if I lose my friends, I'll be thin. Like, I don't care if I don't get to socialize or my parents are annoyed at me or whatever, at least I'll be thin. That was honestly the mindset, right? And
it was the priority.
Yeah, it was the priority. Nothing else mattered. So that started when I was like about 15. I started engaging in that content. It lasted very much until I was 18. And during basically that period, just a lot of restriction, over exercising, feeling like shit, obviously. And it was like the last year of that 3-year period where then I started binge eating because that's what happens when you restrict for a prolonged period of time. It's inevitable. And it's really sad because, and I know that a lot of people will be able to relate to this as well, but that was probably the hardest point of the journey, because then enters the shame and the guilt and, you know, the thing with like the embarrassment. And it's like, wow, because the thing with like certain eating disorders and disordered eating is that you feel like it's almost like a superiority piece to it. And so when you're restricting, you're like, wow, like I must be better than everyone else. Like, you know, this is good. I'm good at this. I'm successful at this. And
and I think sometimes you'd look at other people and you'd be like, well, I wish I had their self-control. Like you'd idolize, you'd idolize other people, being like, well, if they've got that strength, why have I not got that strength to do what they're doing as well? Literally. That's definitely something I felt.
Yeah, literally. And especially like it was fueled by obviously the Tumblr community, because you see people who are successful, quote unquote, successful at this. I am putting air quotes up there for anyone listening. It's not a successful trait at all. Anyway, and I was like, wow, there must be something wrong with me. There must be, like, I'm, you know, I was shit before, now I'm even shitter. That's honestly how it felt. Anyway, got to like 18, the Tumblr community had definitely died down, and I'm assuming because the regulations were introduced. Also, you don't last very long being a contributor in like that space for obvious reasons. And I mean, in terms of people either decide to recover, they decide they've had enough, or they decide like, or they get really sick and they're forced to recover. So that's kind of that. And it kind of died down. I left sixth form and I decided to take a gap year. So I left school summertime, like May, June, July. And I was planning to travel the following year. But that time until the end of that calendar year, I was working in retail part-time, but then I ended up working pretty much full-time. So I started to have like financial freedom because I had more money. I was obviously 18, so I could make my own decisions. So I had like decision freedom. I had more time freedom because I wasn't at school. And my parents were like always really supportive of like do what makes you happy, like follow your own path. So in that sense, like I felt like I had a lot of freedom. And I remember I met this girl at work. She's always such a special friend in my mind because she was a psychology grad, I believe, at the time. And we got really close, and I would tell her like, you know, this is what's going on in my head, this is what's happening. And I remember she didn't say it in these exact words, but she essentially said like, you know, you're not stuck, like, you know, you don't have to be like this. Like, what do you mean I don't have to be like this? Like, this is who I am, I'm the problem, whatever. She was like, no, you're not. You know, you can like change your mindset, you know, you can change your thoughts, you know, that you can, you know, change your behaviors. Like, you know, that's in your control and that you can, like, you're not stuck. And that's when I was like, oh my goodness. And so I started like reading more psychological books, and I was introduced to the world of like self-help, which I don't know about you girls, but like when you first like read a self-help book, you think, oh my God, this is it's amazing. And so at that point, I also had like mindset freedom. And then it was just at the perfect time because I went traveling the year after, and you know, I had all these amazing experiences, and I was like, wow, like this is what I value, right? This is what on earth was I doing before? Like these are the things that actually like give me energy and like life, you know? And so I definitely I overcame a lot of like the more serious like disordered eating elements. But I think it's important to note that I was still dieting at this point and wanting to lose weight and binging every now and then because I thought that was normal. After my gap year, I then went to university. I studied psychology. From that point, by the way, I also was like, I want to be a therapist because I want to teach and explain to other people about how they're also not stuck and how they can change. So I feel like very lucky that something that I always wanted to be was a therapist, and now I am, which is still like pinch me.
An amazing one.
Oh, guys.
An amazing one.
Thank you. Stop it. So I did my degree, and it was a 4-year degree, and throughout that time I was still dieting, binging every now and then because dieting, and like negative body image, but I thought that was normal. I can't believe I'm saying these words at the moment because obviously, but I thought it was normal. I thought everyone goes on diets, everyone hates their body to a degree, like, you know, everyone wants to lose weight, everyone talks about it, like it's normal. It didn't even cross my mind that like dieting could be the issue here. That didn't even cross my mind. I was like, I'm the issue. My body is the issue here. So this was a couple of years ago. So this was like after my degrees. I did my training to become a therapist, but around this time we were about to go on holiday, and I remember my partner said to me, he was like, are you going to diet? Are you going to go on a diet for this holiday? And I was like, no. I was like, I can't be bothered. And I don't know why this came to me, but I was like, I actually just can't be bothered this time. Like, I know how this one goes. You know, you diet before you go on holiday, you binge, then you obsessively plan how you're going to get back on track afterwards. Like, very simplified, but that was often
it's the way that it goes for basically nearly everyone.
Yeah. In the words of Taylor Swift, I've seen this film before. I decided I'm not going to diet, can't be bothered, didn't think anything of it. But then I got on holiday and I was like, wow, I feel really peaceful. I feel really calm. Like, I don't want to like overeat. I don't want to binge. I just want to listen to my body.
Yeah.
You know, this feeling, like you can't ignore it. Like, it was so obvious. And that's when it like clicked for me. I was like, wow, it's the dieting's the problem. And then I started like doing all this research into diet culture and dieting. And that's way I can explain it is that like a fire lit up in me. I was like, this is what I want to specialize in. Because at that point, I was like, you know, I was thinking I want to specialize in anxiety because for me, it was really important to specialize in something that I could relate to myself. I had a lot of anxiety, but it was just so obvious. It was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life now. Like, this is it. And I just ended up doing more specialized training. I ended up working with clients, and here I am. And it's the most rewarding job in the world. It's so important to me. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And I just want to be able to share with other people, you're not stuck. You can question these norms that you think you have to like comply with, like these rules, right? These rules that we have, you can question them and you can break them. You're not stuck. I promise you that you can change. So and in terms of like what rewrite the rules means to me personally, it really is that, like, questioning these norms, questioning these things that we live by. Why do we have to diet before we go on a holiday?
Yeah, why is that the norm? Why can't we create a new normal?
Yeah, exactly. So that's me.
Oh, I love that. Do you know what, Harriet? It's weird because, like, obviously we've spoken for so long, but I haven't obviously known like that much in depth into your story. And like, I could literally ask you a million questions. Like, just sitting there, I was just like, I'm gonna ask a million questions, but can I ask one question? Can I ask? You started out, you know, doing therapy. Did you start just as a generalized, you know, anxiety, stress, like past trauma? Did you generalize in all of those things, or was it always you specifically started with helping people, you know, with eating disorders, body image issues?
So I started specializing in anxiety and fears. So I worked with a lot of fears and actual phobias. And, I love doing that work. I didn't really want to, like, in therapy, you can practice as like a generalist, where you're like, you go on your website, it's like, I can treat all of these things. And, when during like our training, which was like, very intense and like rich training, they do teach you like to cover all of these bases, right? And especially through like my degree as well, it's like I understand like a fair amount. I wanted to practice in something I was passionate about, and I also do think it's easier to kind of like niche down and work in one area instead of trying to work in like a million areas. I also, just something that I realized I hadn't said, my story is a bit more in depth. It's not just I stopped dieting and then I was cured. There was deeper work to do. There was more work to do, and I did that work, and I had to do that work before I started working with clients as well. I had to still do that work. It has to be protected for my sake and my client's sake. I actually saw on Instagram, and one of my friends she described like personal growth as like drinking water. You don't just like hydrate yourself and then never drink water again. You have to continue like protecting.
100%.
Gotta be consistent.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's me.
I feel like this could be so much longer. We could have an episode where like we ask people for their questions and we also ask each other questions, because I think that would be like something that we could do.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And I think sort of as the episodes go on as well, and like we dive into specific topics, like more of what we've experienced is going to go out, but we could literally like talk for days. But I do think we've got like very similar journeys, and like especially you mentioning like about your holiday and how you made the empowering decision not to diet, and I'm like, I literally had the exact same like mirrored experience. I think I love listening to you talk, Harriet, and I'm sure everyone else listening right now is going to love it too.
Guys. Thank you. But no, that felt good to talk about, because like I also haven't spoken about this ever. In snippets, yes, but like as like a beginning to end, I mean, I have more to say. I could talk about this for an entire episode, like you said, but that felt really good just to talk about as well. So thank you for like contributing to providing this space, for myself as well. It's really special.
Beth, do you want to do your turn and tell us your story?
I'll go next. So obviously my name is Bethany. I'm a wellness coach who works one-to-one with clients, helping them overcome the negative relationship with food, with their body, with exercise, and honestly just like supporting others in finding that healthier, more sustainable lifestyle has been one of my biggest passions. And it's so, like Harriet said, like it's so rewarding, and just helping people improve their mindsets and their perceptions is just so fulfilling. Like I look at these predominantly girls that I work with, I look at these girls and I hear their stories, and I literally just see my previous self in them, because I think that's like an important aspect of sort of like our coaching, is that we've literally been in their shoes. We can completely understand what they've been through, and I think they instantly just like, people just trust you more, don't they, when they look at you and think, she's been there, she completely gets it. So linking that, I have sort of struggled with disordered eating since I can remember, and as I've got older, it's taken different forms, which I think is probably quite common. Even looking sort of back to me as like a small child, I would describe my relationship with food as never normal. It was always strange and abnormal, and I was definitely sort of surrounded by a lot of diet talk in my household, sort of like growing up, and food being categorized as like good or bad, being forced to eat foods that I didn't like, or like being forced to finish my plate when I didn't want any more. So obviously, like straight away, that's ignoring your hunger cues, that's ignoring your satiety cues, and having that from such a young age, I think we could almost predict where I was going to go as like a teenager and as an adult. And obviously we will go on to talk about like specific memories in like further episodes, but just reflecting on those moments, I think it's really easy to see why my relationship with food was like so skewed and messed up in the first place.
Yeah.
I experienced a lot of body shaming in my teens. My appearance and size was critiqued a lot, which is like, I feel so sad saying this, but I promise I'm okay now. It's just, it's so bad and sad to look back on. So if anything, like my relationship with food and my body and exercise, it just continued to get worse as I got older. And I just think looking back, it was so predictable because I literally ticked all the boxes, and I'd gone from, like you, Harriet, like reading the magazines and trying every single fad diet, to then finding like the world of weightlifting and joining the gym. And then I started like macro counting and calorie counting, but adding that with my sort of history just gradually sent me down the path of like binging and restricting. So what should have been a positive situation of joining the gym and eat, like fueling my body better and just getting stronger, actually just turned into like another form of disorder.
When you join a gym, it comes with the benefits of, okay, this is supposed to improve your health. And then when it completely unravels and it like does the opposite, it's like, how did we get to this place?
Yeah, I was about to say the exact same thing. It's like, it's seen as such a positive thing. And like, I'm not saying that like in general, getting into fitness isn't a positive thing, but if you've already struggled with disordered eating, you are vulnerable entering the gym and entering the fitness world. You are, you just are, you are a vulnerable human being at that point. So,
and I think once you're sort of used to taking everything to an extreme, it was sort of like, because I know so many people who just love the gym and they like track their macros and they have a great relationship with food. And I would just look at them and think, how are you so happy and finding this so chill and like calm? And I was just finding it so, like, I never did think anything in like a half sort of thing. I'd always take it to some form of just like extreme. And I did this for years and years and years. And then it got to 2020 and I'd sort of hit what I would probably call is my rock bottom. My binge eating was like the most extreme it had ever been. And obviously we were mid-pandemic as well. And I know from probably people we're going to have on this podcast in the future, and we're definitely going to talk about the pandemic's like impact on eating disorders and how a lot of disordered eating was bred in the pandemic. But it was a stressful time for everybody. I don't know anyone that was in a good or calm mind space throughout that period of time. But then I'd lost my nan a couple of months earlier, so going through that experience in the pandemic, I think it's just traumatic in itself, and I think a lot of people will be able to like relate to that feeling as well. And she was literally the most special person on the planet, and the whole situation was just horrendous. But like most binge restrict patterns, this cycle I was just in just kept growing. So before, I would describe it as under my control, which I was completely out of control. But at the time, I thought I'm managing to maintain my binge and just keep it to the weekend. It's not leaking out into the rest of the week. I'm able to restrict in the week, save it for the weekend. And that was my version of like being in control of my eating disorder, because at the time, I thought it was very much normal. We'll also go on to discuss things like cheat days and things like that were very, not so much normalized now, but a couple of years ago were very normalized in the fitness community. Like we have like the 10,000 calorie challenge videos and things, and I would watch them.
Oh, I would too. And literally it would be in a place, I don't know if you'd watched them when you were restricted all week, and you would almost watch them as like your outlet of watching other people eat things that you really wanted to.
Did you watch
them on the treadmill whilst I was like at the gym?
I used to always watch channels called Always Hungry. Do you watch her?
I never watched her.
No.
she doesn't do it anymore, funnily enough. And I think she explains it on her YouTube channel why she doesn't, but it's not sustainable. And also like I don't know this for fact, but I also heard that a lot of cheat day videos are also fake.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not hear that.
Yeah, there's like a video on YouTube. You can really easily, when you're editing a video, you can obviously make the cuts seem so subtle that like someone can
you wouldn't know it's on different days.
Like a lot of the times they get the food and they hold it up to their mouth and then they cut, put it down, bite it, spit it out, put it down. Yeah, I'll send you girls like the video, that like the analysis video afterwards, but obviously that's not a fact, speculation.
And also there has been like the fact that a lot of people's like what I eat in a day as well have been not accurate as well. Yeah, so I would literally watch people like Stephanie Buttermore and Eric the Electric and things like that, and to sort of be like, I can't stuff my face with donuts right now, I'm gonna live it through you and get my satisfaction that way. But I also was sort of self-aware that it's a Tuesday, but I know I am going to binge Saturday, so I was sort of getting excited and using it to be like, I cannot wait for the weekend so I can do the same. I can buy my 12 pack of donuts and do that as well. So I would get excited about it, which is so messed up when I look back, but someone out there is going to completely relate to that feeling. It eventually just got worse. So I'd managed to maintain that for a couple of years, and it was a horrendous cycle to be a part of, but maintained it somehow. And then the binges started becoming more frequent. So with the pandemic, with losing my nan, with just the stress of nothing feeling normal, it was like summertime and everyone was coming home and they were drinking, like definitely around like where I was living, everyone was having bottles of wine at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the pandemic. And it was just like a weird time, but I think everyone was like living it together. So it got to the point where I literally couldn't go 2 days without having a binge. And I can remember it now. I'd be like, Monday, we are literally barely having anything to eat today because we have binged so much last week, we cannot afford to have food. And then it would get to Tuesday and I wouldn't have done brilliant. Maybe I would have had one or two little things that I was just not happy with. Maybe I accepted a biscuit at work, and I was just feeling, even though it was a little thing, I was feeling a lot of guilt for that. I'd get home on a Tuesday and I would get the text from Domino's and it'd be like, is it like 2 for Tuesday or something?
I get them every day, 50% off pizza. Yeah. All right, Domino's. Okay.
Yeah. And it was, I think it was like Domino's and Just Eat or something. I had a notification on that Tuesday and it had happened every Tuesday. And I would give in at the first hurdle and I'd be like, right, pizza, like everything. I wouldn't just order one thing. I would just have the whole works. And then by the time my poor partner came home, he came home to like a frigging buffet. It got like that and I just could not even go 2 days without it happening. And we got to just give you like a couple of like little specifics, we'd got to a Saturday night and I'd been doing a lot of this secretly. My partner knew I didn't have a brilliant relationship with food and he knew that something wasn't quite right. But a lot of the times people just thought I was a bit of a gannet and just thought I really liked food and that I was just lucky that it didn't show on my body. And I just received comments like, well, you wait till you're 40 years old, like you won't be able to eat.
And you're literally like, cheers, Barbara, if only you knew what I was doing, you know.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, this is going to be another episode we're going to have to do about just sheer stupid comments that we've received. But I was just putting on a bit of a show. And I remember Adam had been upstairs all day. I'd been downstairs. We were renovating our house. And I bought a lot of food that day. And I was like hiding it in like bits of the kitchen. I'd like do a bit of painting because we were renovating. I'd go in, eat more, carry on. And that literally happened every 10 minutes throughout Saturday. And it got to the point where I was in physical pain. Like I could not fit in my leggings. Like I was in so much pain. And Adam come down and I just burst into tears. And he was a bit like, what is going on? And then I told him, he was like, you haven't even eaten that much today. He didn't know to the extent that I'd been eating that day. And I just sort of like completely broke down, and I was just like, I cannot do this anymore. I don't even want to exist another day in this routine. So then that's when seeing like various people's different stories online, I sort of realized that I had binge eating disorder. And I was like, right, okay, this isn't normal, because I definitely thought that this was a me problem, like you mentioned, Harriet, whereas it wasn't. A lot of people were suffering exactly the same as I was.
Yeah.
And I think as soon as I realised, actually, there's a name for it. This isn't just a personality trait of mine. Sort of thinking back to things that happened in my childhood and be like, actually, I do tick all the boxes, but there's actually maybe something I can do about this.
Something that I think is just so important, and you just made me think of it, like, it isn't your fault. And anyone listening to this who's can relate to our stories, like, it's not your fault. If anyone restricts for a prolonged period of time, you're going to end up having the urge to binge. If I were to restrict right now, I will have that urge to binge, because it's a biological mechanism. I hope that helps us a little bit, even just trying to shrink the shame and the isolation that, you know, accompanies this issue.
100%. And I think it's really important what you said there. Like, I don't know if you felt like this, but it was almost like when you said people just think that you overeat, and like, I really still think that I could turn around to somebody and I could say, I have an issue with, you know, eating excessive amounts, and they just be like, well, stop eating then. Like, I still think for some people, binge eating disorder is just something that's thrown into the air. It's like, oh, do you know what, we'll put that out there, it gives it a name, you know, and it quietens people down. But it's like, no, like, this is actually, like, when you're in the midst of it, like, you feel like there is no way out. This is like a serious thing, and it's a real thing, you know.
Oh my gosh, when I first started working with binge eating, I had like more than 3 people say to me, oh my God, I binge eat too. You need to help me, Harriet. And it wasn't in a serious way. It was in like it was,
haha, I need to lose weight. I want to lose weight. Can you help me with that?
Yeah. And I think that just really stresses how, like, I don't think people think it's serious.
100%. And I do also think, like, sometimes it is just like thrown into conversation, as in maybe you've had one extra slice of pizza and then you're like, oh, I've binged. Like, that's like a comment I've heard before, and I just don't think it is taken as seriously enough. But that's why conversation is so important. And if I hadn't have seen someone else suffering the same and saw someone else find help, I don't think I'd have thought that there was a solution for me. I didn't necessarily think I could absolutely recover, and I didn't think, oh, I can absolutely get better from this. But in my head, I was just like, right, I cannot compensate for this anymore. I was just in my head, I was like, right, there's no amount of exercise and there's no amount of restriction right now I can do to compensate for what I am doing. And that was the mindset that I was in at the time, and that's what pushed me to be like, something's got to change now. So I'm not saying it's necessarily the right mindset, but at the time, made sense
at that point.
Yes. So I'm still glad that I had that sort of thought, because I'm like, right, it's pushed me to where I am today. But that's what I was thinking. I was just like, I cannot make up for this anymore. I cannot hide this from the world anymore. But yeah, so after that, I sort of dived into the world of recovery, and after sort of finding that food freedom, and obviously, like you said, Harriet, there's so much to unpack, but we will do in the future. It just sort of like lit a fire inside me to be like, there's so many other people suffering exactly the same, and I wish that I could have given myself a solution earlier. So this is why I'm here, and we're all here, because we want to help other people find the solution so that they don't have to, I don't want to say waste years, because I don't want to think of the years that I've existed as wasted, but there's certainly a lot of social occasions and holidays and things that I wish I could have enjoyed and could have been a more positive experience for me. And exactly like you, Harriet, I went on holiday last year to eventually get engaged. But
ooh la la.
But I think that for me solidified my recovery, because I think the question we ask ourselves a lot is, so how do I categorize, like, when do I categorize myself as recovered, because it's a very long journey and you're going to experience so many little hurdles and things. And for me, going on holiday and making the conscious decision not to diet and not to change anything about my eating regime or like how I was choosing to move my body, making that conscious decision and just being like, right, I'm going to buy bikinis and clothes, like holiday clothes that fit my body right now, and that is it. And it was an uncomfortable experience. Sort of every day I'd be waking up and feeling like I was somewhat doing the wrong thing by going against the norm and going against the patterns that I've previously gone through. Like every single holiday I've gone on before this, I have extremely dieted for. So sort of going against that felt a bit weird. It felt a bit wrong. But like you said, once I stepped off that plane and the whole entire experience was different, but it was so much more positive and calm. And I felt so happy in my bikini body, which every time, I just like to say this for like anyone who, it's getting to summertime now and people are panicking a little bit thinking, right, I need to change my body to get into a bikini. Every time I've dieted to get in a bikini and I've gone on holiday, I have hated my body. I have been so unhappy. I've been so miserable. I haven't wanted to like show my skin at all. Whereas just letting my body be and just accepting it as it is, I was so happy and I was so comfortable. And I took more bikini pictures on this holiday than I ever have previously, because I was just like, I don't give a crap and I'm so happy. So
definitely, I think it's so important as well. It's like I always like relate myself back to when I was like my smallest, and like, do you know what, it's not meant to, you know, back then you see it as I want to be the smallest because I want to show off my body and I want to show so and so down the street that I can wear crop tops, and then when you actually do that, I didn't go out. I didn't even actually properly step out the house for the fear of eating something that was going to make me put on weight. So it's like you say, just realizing like that didn't work. So something different has to happen. And I need to experience the uncomfortableness of it to then realize that, oh, hang on a minute, like that was so much better.
Beth, that was so calming to listen to your story.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for
Do
sharing.
you know what as well, Beth? Like, Harriet, when were you saying that binge eating disorder was actually a diagnosed disorder?
Oh, I don't know if this is exactly correct, but it was like 2013, I think.
Yeah, 2013, I remember you telling me.
Yeah.
And like, I still feel like for me, like, obviously I'm not old, but like, I feel like being 30, like a lot of years of friends going through binge eating disorder or disordered eating, and me, I still feel like to a very certain point, probably, I don't know, like, up until like 4 years ago, I still didn't feel comfortable in talking about it. So your Instagram was actually really the first person, apart from other people as well. But I remember looking at your Instagram and just being like, your journey was one of the most authentic that I'd seen in like, I really felt like there wasn't any like fakeness, or you kept it completely like honest. And I also looked at like the way you were eating, and I was like, that's a way that I would like to eat, like the very like intuitional, like you listen to yourself. And I don't know, I just hadn't really seen that before. I hadn't seen anybody be as honest. So I don't think I've told you that before, but
it's so true, because like I remember, Beth, when I saw one of your stories where you were like, I just don't like, I hope you don't mind me saying this, I just don't like salad.
No,
I just don't like
I hate it. It is disgusting. And that's a little snippet of my childhood. I remember screaming and crying because a member of my family, I won't call them out, but was trying to force me to eat a ham salad like sandwich or wrap, and I was literally like gagging, and they were like, no, you're not leaving the table until you're eating it. And I'm just like, I cannot stand salad. As an adult, I have tried to cover it in everything and anything, and I still cannot enjoy it. And I'm just like, no, we're leaving this now. We're not doing it anymore.
It's so inspiring, because you don't, even in today's world, you don't see that people sharing that sort of like authenticity on their page. Like you're the only person really who I see be like truly authentic and genuine. And I know that's one of your values as well.
Yeah, we don't have fakeness around here. We don't.
No.
We don't put on a show for anyone.
Absolutely not.
But you touched on, Harriet, what rewrite the rules means to you. So I think I'm going to try and add my little. Obviously, it's just something that I know is going to help so many people. But it's just helping other people find that food freedom and realise that it's possible in the first place. Because I think a lot of people think, I can't be fixed. And getting others to realise it's possible for everybody, and you can find that freedom with food, with exercise, with your body as well. And Rewrite the Rules is about having those difficult and sometimes uncomfortable conversations that make us sit there and sort of question everything we've grown up believing as fact. And sort of for me, listening to others and talking to other people and listening to their experiences. Without that, I wouldn't have realised that what I was experiencing wasn't the norm in the first place. So I think that's why it's so important for me, I don't know, to help other people have that sort of level of self-awareness. And yeah, just to create a more positive world for our future children to grow up in.
That is beautiful. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, I love that. Okay, Natalie, I think we're passing the mic to you.
Yeah, I'm a wellness coach, and I've worked one-on-one with people that are struggling with their relationships with food and how they view their bodies. And yeah, my approach is to work, extremely closely with individuals, helping them to relearn, a new way to live life with food and body freedom, and find that true inner happiness. And for me, when I was going through my struggles, I just could not find anyone who understood what I was going through. And then I stumbled across my therapist, and she told me on my first session that she also struggled with binge eating disorder. And I will never forget that feeling of relief and just feeling truly understood. And that, I think we've all touched upon that. That is why I wanted to give others that feeling, and also to give them the hope that okay, look, this is achievable. We've been stuck in this way of thinking for so long, but like you said, Harriet, it doesn't mean that we can't challenge that. So yeah, the path that kind of led me to this is the same as you, Harriet. It's strange because I never grew up thinking of food in a way that was good or bad, or I shouldn't have this. My mum never ever spoke of diets. I had 2 older brothers who ate absolutely everything and anything whenever they wanted, and I kind of followed that path. It was, I ate when I wanted to, I ate when I was hungry, I stopped when I was full. But I was extremely active as a child. My mum put me into dancing when I was 3, and I don't know if I'm just saying this in my experience. But I think always being small and very small framed, and that was what I was known as. It was Natalie is small, out of friendship group, she's the small one, and I could get away with eating really whatever I wanted, but I don't know if I could, or it was because I had a very healthy relationship with food. When you don't have an issue with putting on weight or people commenting on your weight, it means that it's not so much a part of your life, and you're not susceptible to following diets because you're oh, my body stays the same. But also I think it put on a bit of a pressure on me to stay just in that body type. I think it was I was at college and at school, and my friendship group around me, diet culture was rife. It was all they spoke about, and I was the only one that didn't. And even at college, it was always, Natalie can wear what she wants, we go on a night out. And I was almost worried about how they were, okay, are they comfortable in what they're wearing? If they're not, does that mean that we're going to have a good night? And it was never a burden on me at all, but the focus was taken off of me. So I didn't ever worry. And, I think all of these things kind of caught up with me later in life. And my best friend, she's still my best friend now. She suffered really, really, really severely with issues around food. And, you know, we were best friends, and it was always, we were seen as, or we even said it to each other, I was the one that didn't eat a lot. She was the one that ate a lot. And, you know, even then, I remember we went on holiday one time, and she was so down and depressed about how she looked and what she ate. And she went to the doctors, and they prescribed her antidepressants. So even then, it was like, we did not know what this was, you know, even though I had somebody with me that was obviously suffering with that. I just had absolutely no clue. And yeah, then I went to dance college, which is, I went there for 2 years, and it's an extremely high pressured environment, you know. I was talking to my friend about it, and it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about because it's the way that it was, and you don't want to put anybody in a bad light. But, you know, it was things like we got weighed, and, you know, then it was the conversations in the changing room about how much do you weigh, people crying because they didn't weigh as much as this person. We got banned from the fish and chip shop over the road. They weren't allowed to serve us. We were doing like 6-hour days of intensive exercise, and my friends were still going to the gym before. We got stood up and told, if you don't look like this person, you're not going to get a job. You know, I remember my friend, she started taking laxatives. She was seen as bigger. And as soon as she started to drop the weight, them not knowing what she was doing, it was praised. She got into dance numbers. You had to audition to be in show numbers. And, you know, when you're getting that positive feedback, it's seen as, this is the thing to do. But I was in a really good friendship group at that time. So that was going on, but I wasn't drawn into it. I couldn't tell you what calories were. My eating was just, I would consider it as normal still then. And then when I left, I got a job away. I was working in a hotel and doing entertainment, so dancing. So that was 6 shows a week. So it was crazy activity again. I was 21. I'd never been in a gym before, got in a relationship, and he introduced me to the gym. And then that was like, I was exercising and doing like full on workouts, like leg days on those days, and it's just madness to me. And then it was kind of that thing again, Natalie seen as a small one, I've got to keep up with this. You know, I remember going on stage once, and like I was wearing a leotard and everybody else got skirts, and I was like, well, why don't I get a skirt? Like, I'm just in my leotard with tights. And they were like, because you're the small one. So like it was that pressure again. And like you know, also I remember like being in the relationship I was in, and it was like comments like, you should pick up a packet of crisps, you shouldn't do that. Have you been to the gym today? You haven't. I think that you should. I can always tell when you've put on a bit of weight. So those things just, I think they creep up on you. But I wasn't eating well at that point either, you know, without me knowing. It was the first time away from home, and I would eat like 1 meal a day because I worked there for 3 years. It was very much that time of, there was nothing else to do but drink in the evenings. You'd wake up hungover, you'd go to work, we'd have our dinner at 4, and then I'd do a show, finish work at like 1, and then maybe have something to eat. So I think my eating sort of routine got completely put out, really. And yeah, I left that job, and then I went traveling. It was that thing of all of that activity stopped. I worked in an office, and girls, I don't know if you've worked in an office, but it's food. It's just like, turn around, someone's offering you a cake. Like, that is what like the office is. It's like, it's just food
Biscuits.
flying about all the time.
It's someone's birthday every single day.
Oh my God,
yeah.
Literally. I think that it was a shock to my system, you know, like it was almost like I saw that I could no longer keep this body that stayed slim. And, you know, then I stopped working in the office. I went traveling in hostels, and I was still trying very much to keep up with the gym. And I think that's when I really started to control my weight, started not to feel good about myself. And it was a really alien feeling to me. You know, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And then I remember I come back from traveling, and I looked in the mirror, and I literally was like, what is this? Like looking at my body in the mirror, like what has happened? It, you know, it was like everything was exaggerated in the way that I looked. And the time as well, I'd also got in another relationship, and I know I was telling you girls this before, but like these comments, they stick with you. Like I was with him and he got the scales out and told me to step on the scales, and I was nearly 10 stone, and he called me a fat C word. And like
That's
those,
disgusting.
it's just like an accumulation, I think, of those comments that just suddenly just whack me in the face, like, you haven't dealt with this, so you're going to deal with it now. And I also come back home, and my best friend who'd suffered with binge eating, who I said about before, she'd really worked on healing that, and it was a really big shock to my system, because I'd always been her support system, and it was like it had changed, and I was like, I don't know what to do for myself now. So yeah, it carried on. I got a personal trainer, and I've had this conversation with him, so I don't feel like I'm bad mouthing, and I've had these, you know, this sort of trauma that I've explained to him. But yeah, I just wanted this weight gone, and I think it was nearly a year, and he gave me a food plan, an exercise plan, and it was basically all I could eat was protein and green veg. I was not even allowed any other colour veg, and a Squares marshmallow bar. Woo. Like, it was the most restrictive thing. But obviously people want results, and you know, starting out, they want to show this person has lost this weight, come and, you know, PT with me. But I think it's so important, if you're not qualified in that area, men and women, but especially women, you know, we have our menstrual cycle. That for me stopped. My hair started falling out. I was constantly cold. I was constantly going to the toilet, and I still have those issues now, because, you know, being told to drink 4 litres of water. He told me things like, girls, he told me to sleep with no clothes on, because I had to weigh myself every morning, because the heat would leave my body and I would weigh less in the morning.
I've never even heard that one before.
I used to sleep naked in the winter.
I don't like pajamas, but not for that reason.
It's like he almost like gave you that instruction manual. Here's how to F up your relationship with food. And like, I don't believe that was his intent.
100%. Like, I feel like I always explain, I was like a blank canvas. You could have told me anything and I would have believed it, because I've got absolutely no education or knowledge about food, and this was working at that time. And okay, let's just go with it. And I remember, like, I strictly stuck to this for nearly a year, and it got to Christmas, and I said to him, can I eat, it's Christmas, can I eat what I want? I really want to eat Christmas dinner. And I remember, like, even saying, I want to eat like what my mum cooks, and he was like, I think we'll keep you on this, like, you know, we're getting results. And then he said, for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, you can eat what you want. And I remember being given that, and it was this Marks and Spencer's like box of cookies, and I don't know how many were in there, maybe like 24. I opened it and I remember eating it, and this feeling, I will never forget it. It was, I can only relate it to drugs. It was like this absolute rush of adrenaline, like the heat rising in my body. I could not stop eating it. Not having anything sweet for that amount of time, and then tasting it, it was like I didn't know what to do, and I ate the entire box. And I remember just thinking, what is this? Like, what? No one else has gone through this. And that was it, you know. I carried on binging and restricting for a good 3 years. There's so many other things that went into it, but I think the last time, I done jobs in the middle, dance jobs. It completely ruined my experience. And I done one dance job, and I think when I saw that it was an issue was when I was working with a group of people who I absolutely adore. My friend at the time, male friend, he also was struggling with an eating disorder, but we kind of were encouraging each other without saying anything. Also, I had a group of girls that I was working with, 3 girls, and I saw how healthy their relationship was with food. And I remember eating the same thing. You know, we got to eat in a hotel, and they were eating pizzas and freshly made pastas, and I was eating chicken and veg for, I don't know how many months I was there, maybe 6 months. And obviously it would get to the weekend, I would binge, not want to go out on the beach, not want to take photos. And I remember talking to my friend there, and she said, she kind of knew something wasn't right, but she was like, Natalie, I suffered with the same, and you can get over it. You can. I did. And me seeing the way that she viewed her body and how she ate, I thought, wow, like there is someone there that is showing me that that's possible, as well as my best friend as well. But then I came home. It probably got to the worst. I went on a holiday. I'd done that restrictive thing. I went away with my best friend who had healed her relationship with food. And it was like the minute I got to that airport, I remember we got her mum bought us a bag of pick and mix, and that was it. Boom. It was just a write-off. Like I was secretly eating in our hotel room, scrutinising photos. And I come back home and I was just like, I'm just done with this. I'm so done. Like, then my brother's a therapist. I told him, and he knew something wasn't right. And then he recommended a therapist, and she's like my savior. Like, literally, when I went in, she was like, her husband had tragically passed away, and she used eating as a coping mechanism. So I no longer felt weird. I didn't feel embarrassed. And yeah, like I said, I felt understood. And I think, like, Harriet, that's why I'm so, like, there's no one that I know specifically deals with eating disorders. If I was to look up online, I wouldn't find that. I've been helping somebody else try and find a therapist before, I met you, and we couldn't find anyone. And I think, to feel understood, that's just like the basis of it. And, then it was about 4 years. And like you say, I think it's a constant, like, that I do feel like in this amazing place, and obviously being able to help people, but there was obviously a lot of work that had to be done to feel like I'm comfortable enough to do that, and also not to feel triggered. But I think as women, it's hard. It's like it's a battlefield, going out there and not feeling like you're susceptible to comments. Like I say, there's so much more to it, but I think what I want to say is there is that help for people out there. And Rewrite the Rules, for me, is like a place of true acceptance, a place to feel understood, uplifted and included. And like you said, like, no holds barred, no taboo subjects. It's raw and honest. And I just want it to be a place, if people are struggling and they don't understand what this is, to hear this and think, oh my God, because like you say, I feel like if I had that, I could have figured out what this was sooner, because I just sat with it,
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that, because I just know so many people's ears are going to, like, they're not already pricked, are going to be like super pricked at the moment. Like, wow, I really resonate.
It's odd, isn't it? Like, explaining it, I just think it's so sad. And like, talking about diet, we read that like statistic, and I know, Harriet, you read it as well, like 30% of people that intentionally diet, have disordered eating tendencies. And I think was it 35 to 40% actually go into full-blown eating disorders. And that is sad, like, because it's
scary.
Knowledge, we are blank canvases, and things, the after effects that this can have, such as loss of menstrual cycle, that those things aren't seen.
I think the reason why dieting really kind of, it goes that way, is because you lose connection with yourself. You stop listening to your internal cues. You start acting based on how you think you should act, or based on what this plan that's been given to you, whatever that says, you abide by it. And that's why it makes me feel so sad when people who are struggling say, but I can't get better because that means I might gain weight and I'll let myself go. And I always say the same thing. It's like, this is actually you coming back to yourself. It's the opposite of letting yourself go. Following a diet, I know this is going to sound like a really extreme statement, but I really do believe for a lot of people, following a diet is what you're letting yourself go.
I think we just like we so often align and like attach our worth to numbers, whether that's like the number on a scale, how many calories we're eating that day, how many steps we've done, like what size clothing we're wearing. Constantly, like as women, we are being lessened to a number instead of being an actual human. And like hearing you talk, Natalie, about like your experience with that PT and how that was like stepping back and just like condensing what that was, it was just like a before and after picture. Like you didn't gain any happiness from that, like if anything the complete opposite. But that's what a lot of PTs, and I hope he's still not doing that now, but especially like a couple of years back, it was just after the before and after pictures, and it doesn't matter what you had to eat or what you had to do to get to that point, because as long as it looks good and as long as you've got smaller, then you've won.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important to say as well, like I think it is such a thing, isn't it, like parents or friends of parents growing up, it is just diets. Like I listen to my mum speak to her friends now, and it's literally like, need to go on this diet, need to do this. And when you're listening to that narrative all of your life, how are you supposed to think differently? How are you not supposed to have somebody offer you that and think, oh yeah, I'll do that, like, and then without it you're lost. So
it's so true. And it's like, I think you'd find it hard to come by someone who is struggling with their relationship with food, who didn't have a parent who was dieting, or a friend's parent who was dieting. And I mean that with compassion and respect. Like, this is not about blaming our parents. You know, they would have learned it from somewhere as well. This is learned. We didn't come out of the womb wanting to be thin, wanting to you know, experiencing guilt after eating. Like, it's learned, and that's good because it means it can be unlearned as well.
Unlearned, 100%.
So amazing, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that maybe you resonated with one of our stories or all of our stories, but just thank you so much for tuning in. And in terms of what you can expect next, we have some very exciting episodes in the pipeline. I hope you're looking forward to that. But if there's anything that you also want us to specifically talk about, please send us a DM at the Rewrite the Rules pod on Instagram, and we will definitely talk about it.
Yes, 100%. And we recognise that anything to do with disordered eating in any capacity is deeply serious. It's a deeply serious topic. We hope that you find some comfort, inspiration and empowerment from listening to this podcast, because we want this to be a safe and inviting space that you can tune into. Keep it raw and real.
We release a new episode every single Monday. We announce what we're talking about on that Monday via our Instagram first. So make sure you follow us there. And thank you so much, guys, for tuning in.
Yes, honestly, that was amazing. Thank you, girls, for providing that space for me to talk, but just loved it.
Amazing. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you love this episode, make sure you subscribe to us so you don't miss out. And if you really love this episode, we would also love it if you could leave us a review wherever you are listening to this podcast.
Also, if you think any of your girl or guy friends would enjoy this podcast, make sure you share it with them so we can spread the love.
And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram over at Rewrite the Rules pod. If there's anything that you would love for us to talk about, just send us a little DM and we'll add it to our list. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.